In this video, we're going to talk about Acas and how to get ahead in your employment tribunal claim. My name's Alex Monaco, solicitor and owner of Monaco Solicitors. The subtopics we're going to look at is what is Acas, how do you start the Acas process, why do you start it, time limits, and is Acas as good as having a lawyer? So, what is Acas? Acas is a government body which is there to help two sides in an employment tribunal claim or potential claim to come to some kind of out-of-court resolution to agree a financial settlement out of court. The way it works is that they have conciliators who are trained to be go-betweens between yourself, the employee, and your employer to effectively take messages from one side to the other to try and find a middle ground where both sides would like to settle the case amicably out of court. Normally that's an amount of compensation, financial compensation. So an amount of money that you would accept to not start an employment tribunal claim. The need to do an Acas procedure is actually, it's not an option for you. If you're going to start an employment tribunal claim, you have to go through Acas first, and then you would get your reference number from Acas, which you would need to then start your employment tribunal claim. You will need to use the same reference number from your Acas certificate. So there really is no way around going to Acas if you do want to do an employment tribunal claim. Why should you do Acas? Well, obviously, other than the fact that you have to do it, it does give you that chance to settle a claim out of court, and it, especially if the relations between yourself and the employer have broken down, which often is the case, you may not be talking to each other. So it's quite handy to have a third party go-between. What they will do is they will ask you for what you think the case is worth or how much you would accept, and they will go and take that figure to the employer and they will ask them whether they would accept that figure, and often they won't accept that, but they might come back with a counter offer, and that will be taken back to you. Amongst that, the conciliation officer will also be asking each side about why they think that offer should be at that level. So you will get an opportunity to tell your conciliator why you think you have a strong case. For example, you've got witnesses or you have certain evidence perhaps, and then the other side would then put their version of events forward. Oh no, we believe that we've got a strong case because of these reasons, and that will also be communicated to you by the conciliation officer. In terms of time limits, most claims have a 3 months minus 1 day time limit. So if your time limit the clock started ticking for you, perhaps your last day of employment was on the 1st of January, you'd have January, February, March, so those are your 3 months, so up to the end of March. So you'd have 30th of March would be, 31st of March would be your 3 month time limit. You would need to issue a tribunal claim within that time, otherwise you'd be deemed to be out of time and you're going to have a lot of problems. Frankly, you won't be able to make a claim. So you've very little time really to get your ducks in a row and get that claim issued. Before that, as we've said, you do need to issue an Acas certificate. So when you do go to Acas, that pauses your time limit effectively. It's like pressing the pause button. What happens then is that the Acas process takes place, so the back and forth between the two sides. That normally has a 1 month duration as a maximum. That can be extended by an additional 14 days with agreement from both parties. Now, having said that, if one or other of the parties does not want to participate in any kind of Acas conciliation, they can tell the Acas conciliator, sorry, we don't want to participate, and the Acas conciliator will stop the process there and then and issue the Acas certificate there and then, and that might be 1 day into the process or 1 week in, so it won't necessarily have to run the whole month. It could easily finish early, at which point the pause button that was effectively put on when the Acas process started, that will be unpaused, and so you'll be back into your 3 month time limit that you were already originally in. Okay. Is that complex? Yes, it is a bit. Have another look on our website to get a bit more of a lowdown on that, or give us a shout to understand a bit more. There is also another time limit point to be aware of, is that if you're starting your ACAS process towards the end of your time limit, so you've got your 3 months minus 1 day time limit. If you're starting this ACAS in the third month, or even in the final week, for example, then the issuing the ACAS certificate, where that ACAS process is finished, if it doesn't result in a settlement and your conciliator issues a certificate, that will extend the process by an additional month. So it will extend the time limit rather by an additional month. Okay, to give you an example, you waited 2.5 months in since you were fired unfairly. You've then gone to ACAS, you started that process. That's then concluded without an agreement. You now have an additional month in order to issue your claim for your employment tribunal. So it's added on, where you would have had 2 weeks because you started at 2.5 months. So you would have had 2 weeks left. Now instead of that, you've got a month. So in summary on that point, it's complex again, but if you're doing your ACAS process towards the end of your time limit, it will give you a month after that has finished. If you're doing it in the beginning of your time limit or in the middle, then it just simply puts the pause button and unpauses it. So you'll just have the amount of time that you had before still to run before you have to issue your ET1 certificate. Confused? Rightly so. They don't make these things easy, sadly. So this is where lawyers and things like that do come in handy. Finally, is ACAS as good as having a lawyer? Is it effectively a substitute for having a lawyer? And why should you bother having a lawyer if you've got ACAS? Well, that's a good question. You might think, well, we've got a professional ACAS conciliator here. These people are trained mediators. I don't need a lawyer. They will take my offer, they'll put it to my employer, and they'll bring their offer back, and they'll solve the case, and I'll be able to go home happy, live happily ever after. And that would be nice. There's a couple of problems that do exist though, however, with ACAS, in our opinion. So number one, they're not on your side. They're not against you, but they're not on your side. They're not on anyone's side. So they're neutral. And this means that they can't really advise you. They can't really promote your case or advocate your case to your employer. They could just simply tell the employer neutrally what you said. So they're more of a messenger rather than an advocate fiercely demanding justice for you and your rights. So there is that neutrality problem. The other main problem with ACAS conciliators compared to lawyers is that they're not lawyers. So they're not legally trained. They haven't done cases. They don't represent people, and they don't really know the complexities and the nuances of employment law to the same degree that employment lawyers know. They don't know their onions as well as a lawyer. So of course they know their way around an employment case, broadly speaking, and that's fine if you have a more simple claim, maybe unpaid wages, in as much as that you didn't get paid for a week's work or a month's work. That's fairly cut and dried. Did you do the work? Did you get paid? If you have a more complex claim, perhaps unfair dismissal or discrimination or whistleblowing, these claims can involve facts going back a number of years. They can involve very complex law, statutes, legislation, case law, and so on. And an ACAS conciliator just won't have a grip on all of that complexity in the same way that perhaps a lawyer will. So if you're watching this video and you want to stay up to date, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And also it's worth having a look at our website as well to make sure that you've read up on all of your rights. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Alex Monaco, and it's been a real pleasure. Good luck with your case.